Welcome back to the show. Today we are going to do a breakdown on current lead generation tactics. I was going to call her the queen of lead generation, but you might cringe if I called you that. So I'm probably not going to.
Rob's calls me Jedi.
Jedi?
Jedi.
Jedi, what?
Like a Jedi.
Cheddar? Sorry. I know, I'm winding her up.
I thought you were taking the piss anyway. I was like, really?
I've used that joke far too many times. Yeah, Jedi. Yeah, you look more like Yoda than a queen.
Yoda?
Yeah.
That's a bit fucking insulting.
There we go.
What the hell?
But we're going to walk you through the changes that have been happening in lead generation since we last did one of these. As you're probably aware, it's a very quick developing topic. It's something that changes quite a lot, and it's something that, you know, we're one of the bigger kind of direct response lead generation style marketers. People generally kind of follow us like trend wise, not being big-headed about it. It's just a fact. The problem with that is once we set a precedence and we start doing something, everybody then starts doing it. Mm-hmm. And then whatever we were doing then becomes less effective because everybody's doing it. So we're having to continuously work and develop on these practices. And what we want to do with this show is walk you through what we've actually been working on, what we've seen that's been working more, what we've seen that's been working less, and some things that you can start to implement within your business to help you get better results, basically, with your lead generation. Mm-hmm. So obviously I've got Shannon with me because Shannon is lead generation. That's what she does.
Yeah, I feel like it's not my only job, but you know, it's part of my job.
Part of multiple jobs.
It was my main job for a long time.
It's your specialism.
Yeah, specialism, yeah. It was one of the things that I actually talked about this week on the accelerator calls when we were doing the training was the changes in it. And I think it was something actually I spoke to today, even about sales as well, like how even like 6 months ago, something that you were doing isn't necessarily going to work now because things change so much. And I think that's one massive thing that other people in our industry don't realize is that they're using a lot of methods that are very outdated and not in line with how society moves in terms of like buying behaviors, how they change. Like 10 years ago when I done my dissertation, 10 years ago when I done my dissertation on bad behaviors around smartphones, completely different now. It would have no point of even working now. Do you know what I mean? So like it changes that much, and that's around bloody smartphones.
So what's out? What's not working?
So what we're finding now at the moment isn't working is really copy and paste the script messages, and that hasn't worked for a while. I keep saying that because it hasn't worked for a while. I think like they're very much like, I wouldn't say salesy stuff, but like the very dry kind of like cutthroat kind of short messages aren't really working, because what you're finding is people are like, you're just asking a question to get a response and then ask them the question, and people are onto it now, so people know exactly like where the conversation is going, and it's all the same questions. There's no, for some reason, no one thinks to add their own personality to questions. Like, why, if someone tells you what their goal, like I had this conversation with a girl on the accelerator call today, she was like, I asked them what their goal is, and she's like, and usually I get like a really shit, like a dry response, like, oh, just get stronger. And I'm like, because you're not asking the right question. Yeah. I was like, for your target audience, that is not the right question. I was like, it's in the training. That's what we discuss. You need to build something around that flows with your actual audience. Like if someone's telling you, oh, it's just to get stronger, dive deeper. Why do they want to get stronger? Do they want to get stronger in deadlifts? Do they want to get stronger in RDLs? Do they want to get stronger in squats? What is it they want to do? There is a goal there. You're not asking the right questions. You're wording it wrong. I
don't think you can go straight in at goals anymore.
No, I think it's just all
goals, the what are your struggles and what are your goals, I think go a lot further down the flow than they used to be. I think that once you start asking people about the struggles and the goals, they're not dumb. They can see you're a coach. They start to automatically go, this is a sales conversation.
They digress in the conversation. You can tell.
You see them like claw back in. So what we've been implementing, which has worked quite well, is we have a section in our lead generation now called Curiosity. And that's for really kind of just finding out about the person that you're speaking to. So what this means is that what I think is out at the moment is hitting large volumes of message like send outs throughout the day.
Yeah, because if you remember, it was like a couple of months ago, that was us. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it was like if you send this amount of messages, you generally will get this amount back.
That's because it was a numbers game.
But those percentages are getting smaller and smaller and smaller to the point now where that's not now an effective strategy. And I think now it's about realistically identifying who your top targets are within your audience and focusing on building more of a relationship with those people, and only realistically following up and talking to people who are actively engaging with your content and profile.
Yeah. But then there's obviously the other side of the coin of that is people are like, well, it's always the same people engaging on my profile.
Do better content then.
Yeah, and it's like,
Do
it's
better
always,
content.
and I say it all the time on calls, I'm like, it's literally a full, like, kind of, your marketing isn't just lead gen, it's everything encompassing in it. If you want to have better leads, you want to have better conversations, you need to work on your content and your messaging. And messaging isn't necessarily physically messaging someone, it's the message that you're sending to people with your content. And they're like, but I don't want to post and do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if you're posting surface level stuff and you're getting really basic, like the same people constantly over again, like nothing seems to be changing, you need to fix that message. You need to go away, do the work, come back and get it right. And I think that's one massive thing people struggle with, because they see all these videos, like we were talking about before, about all these stupid videos going out. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense for you to do that. Like, there's a reason why you're not getting the quality there, the leads. There's a reason why there's always the same people and stuff as well, because you're it's just regurgitating the same stuff.
I think so. I mean, we were doing lead generation for a bit first, but then we went and learned lead generation from Tanner Chidester, who's like the messaging like guy. Like he's if you wanted to learn at that point, direct messaging, they were the people. They were making like 10 million a year plus.
100%.
Just off like direct, from ads to bring the flow in, but like direct messaging, then off that, all their ads were to direct message. So they were really good at like cultivating conversation in the inbox. And genuinely, like, even what I was told at that point was that content doesn't matter. Literally, I was told content doesn't matter. Post some shit up so it looks like you're legit. Once you look legit, buy some fucking followers. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as your profile looks legit, just start talking to people and you'll be able to convert. And that worked at the time.
Yeah.
That absolutely does not work now, because everybody is playing that game. Everybody is putting up 6 to 9 posts, you know, making a profile that looks semi-legit and then just going on the absolute rampage, messaging people. My inbox is full of video editors, high ticket appointment setters, closers, all of these people that are being taught this outdated lead generation tactic, and it does not work anymore. Your content and your level of relationship buy-in are the two things that will make you sales nowadays.
And I've always stuck by, it's quality over quantity, always.
But anytime I think even more so now.
But I've always stuck by that. I've always said, if you're sending out, like, even when we were telling people to send out like 50 messages, I was like, if you're sending out 50 messages full of pure shite, you're not going to get the quality back. That is it. Like, it's just the law. That's just not, it's not going to happen.
Especially on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, there's maybe other platforms that are a little bit different, and I don't like to step in waters that we don't work in. Like, LinkedIn might be a volume thing. I don't know.
LinkedIn is a very special case, because with LinkedIn, I've only ever known maybe one person to have cracked it, and that's been down to the sheer volume that they're putting out, and what they use to put that out with. Now, whenever I looked at the scripts before, I was like, how on earth are those messages working? Because they would never ever work anywhere else. So I don't know if that's not, again, same with Instagram, same with Facebook, it changes all the time.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn stuff could have changed since then.
But I obviously I don't talk about it because it's not something that we really actively market on or teach, to be honest. But Instagram and Facebook for sure, the numbers game definitely isn't it. No. It's not about, you know, hiring an offshore team to just send out hundreds of messages a day. Like, and unfortunately what's happening now is coaches that are continuing that barrage of messages are ripping through the audience, and then you have to work really hard to get them on side. Like, we've been changing our lead generation strategy for the last few weeks now, and I've had to go in and re-implement it myself first, because some of the approach that, you know, as it stopped working, you still... Listen, when things stop working in your business or things start to trend, you've got to sometimes let it trend a bit, because sometimes you just get anomalies and you can't just throw everything out as soon as you see like a little bit of a downturn. But we were like, we're doing the same stuff here and this is not working as well. So we've gone in and we've like rebuilt the strategies and stuff. But to rebuild the strategies, like I've had to go in and almost do some damage control with regards to it. And that's how, you know, we've learned and we've developed these new strategies by going back to square one and getting in the inbox and doing the work ourselves and formulating it. But I think, for me, if you were saying like one thing that's out, it's definitely volume. It's not how many messages have you sent out. It's how many key target customers have you connected with?
Yeah, or it's like how many conversations you feel like you've had this week that could have generally been pushed to a call.
Yeah.
Or like
or the with relevant people that
again, like that. I've had this conversation with again this week before. Like vetting process is so important, and I don't think people are doing that enough. Like it's like everyone on Instagram is not your target audience. Like they're just not. If you're saying you want to target women who are in, I don't know, the 20 to 35 bracket, that's still a lot of women. That's still a lot of people. You're still not giving a lot of like, you're not being niche enough, and like that's not an ideal client. And if you're telling someone, I want to message all you people, of course your diary's going to get filled up with loads of shit. Of course you're going to get calls booked with like people who are absolutely a waste of time. People just don't realise that.
So I think for me, like the strategy has to go from what it was, which was like, listen, if you send 50 messages a day to people that are on your account, generally it will flow through, the numbers will work out, and you will get the right amount of calls booked that you need. I think now it's a case of you have to generate content that is going to get people in to buy into enough to have a real conversation with you, not a surface level conversation, but a real conversation. And I think realistically, if you could have 10 real conversations per hour, that's more of a realistic target to aim for than just 50 messages sent out a day. Or 100%. You need to be, you know, hitting X amount of numbers. Again, different platforms may be different. Instagram especially has been flooded. I think, you know what part of it? I think it's, you know, like that Andrew Tate, like Hustlers University, like that kind of thing. Like all these people are going and getting. And
is that a real thing?
Yeah. It's like a website, and you can. Not that I've done it. I've heard. I genuinely haven't. I would tell you if I had. Clearly, sold enough of them. It must be semi all right. But you can go in and you like learn high value skills to earn money.
Okay.
So like closing, setting, copywriting,
okay.
video editing, which is why all these people are, I assume, I'm not sure, I'm drawing a parallel
it's
here.
Definitely not all of them, because obviously I'm in a few Facebook groups with like appointment setters and closers.
But
and
the
stuff,
whole thing is being
yeah.
that. But it is very send enough messages and you will get enough.
Yeah.
Whereas
send enough follow-ups as well. So as soon as you ignore one message from someone, it's constant.
Yeah.
It's like follow up. And I'm like, I'm never going to reply to you because I know exactly what you're doing.
And well, so there's two things that have kind of killed this off. A, that. B, bots and AI are getting pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's almost like people are looking at it going, that might be a bot. I'm just going to ignore it. And people will, if they think it's AI, if they think it's a machine, they have no personal drive to ever respond to you.
Yeah.
So for me, making sure that you have things that bots or people that don't speak English as a foreign language, don't speak English as a first language, that maybe are outsourced workers, won't be able to do. And that for me is like humor and connection.
Yeah.
On your very early messages. So if you can get in with something like jokey, you know, use a bit of banter, like have a little bit of like common relation with people's stories, and people's latest posts are the easiest way to get involved with them, and get those messages back. Because if you say something that's, you know, related to your personal life and personal story, like, and connect with them on that level, they know full well you're a legit person, like, and then they almost feel like they have to reply in a sense. So like going off the back of like stories and stuff like that has been a massive kind of difference for us, to make sure that people are aware that, you know, it is me. I am genuinely interested in speaking to them. It's not a bot. It's not just someone spamming messages and hoping to kind of catch enough fish.
Yeah.
There's a chance of a genuine conversation there, and I'm genuinely interested in what's going on with the business. And that has, you know, even in the past couple of weeks has made a massive difference with the quality of leads that we get in. And like for us, we're not getting as many calls booked. We're not getting as many things through the door, but the things that are coming through and the calls that are coming through, our percentage is way, way higher. We're making just as many sales with less time in the inbox, with less messages sent, with less people gone through. And that allows us to keep pushing content, and the people that maybe wouldn't have messaged because they're not really in the right space, or they're not really trust us enough. We don't burn that bridge with them early. They get a chance to watch the content without being contacted. And then when they do start engaging because they've built enough trust, then we have a much better conversation. And I think that for me has been a key difference for us with the lead generation recently.
Yeah, it's been massive, to be fair. But one other thing as well, probably to touch on, is like, if someone does have like a setter or a VA or someone in their inbox and they're like, I'm not getting called, I'm not getting anything booked, it may be something for them to look at, is like, can you realistically say this sounds like 80% something I would say?
Yeah.
Like you were saying before, does this sound like something I would say? If you can say no, or actually like, I don't know, you need to go back and look at it and be like, right, have I actually given this person time to understand who I am, how I speak? And do I need to do more training on that? Because that's something that we do. Like, I do training with the team every 2 weeks. Is it every bi-weekly training?
Yeah.
At one point it was every week. I do one-to-ones. I do like on Slack training, stuff like that. That's how much training we do. But it's because we want to make sure that's still working. We also want to make sure that anything that we learn in our business, we can then take away and be like, right, we know this works now. I can go and tell the coaches like in our program, I'm going to teach them now how to do this.
And I think for me as well, one of the big things, what's out now is just hiring a setter that semi knows what to do. That was working because there wasn't as much noise in people's inbox before. If you could generally hold a conversation and you could generally follow a flow, or you could follow a script, they could get the work out of them. They could get an ROI. It's getting far too noisy in people's inbox. People are far too aware of like they're having the same conversations with multiple different coaches. So now I would recommend you almost need to rethink where the name probably needs to change, but I've not really settled on what I feel acceptable to call it. But like the person who's in your inbox, your VA or setter or whatever you call them, is a much higher skill than previously it needed to be.
Because like there's such, I don't know why this is, but it feels like people think it's a very low level job.
But it has been treated like a low level job.
And it's because of the amount of VAs that were being sold like through
but
like,
low level used to kind of work.
Yeah.
Like if they sent out enough messages, it was going to work. Now, I think your setter is as, and you may be listening to this and you don't have a sales team, but like sales is probably one of the last things you will outsource as a business. So on a sliding scale, it's like all administrative tasks, like all paperwork, all little fiddly bits, editing, computer, tech, all the things that you're not built for as a coach, all of that first. Next step, you're then looking at marketing, like maybe not being the face of the content, you're always going to have to do that, but maybe like the planning and the setup and, the writing and the copy, etc. Again, depending on what you love. But right up at the top of that is leadership. The one under that is sales. So sales, when we build businesses for coaches, we don't hire them a closer realistically unless there's a very, very good reason, around the 30 or 40,000 pound a month mark. And the reason being, it's a really high level position. It requires a lot of training. It requires somebody to be really deeply built into the business. They have to know the products inside out. They have to know the story inside out. They have to know the reasonings. They have to almost be as good as a coach as well to be able to help they don't have to coach on the call, but they have to be able to diagnose people's problems and talk to them about them. And it's a skilled job. I think whoever's in your inbox is not far off that. Yeah. It's realistically an inbox version of a closer, because they have to now understand the product, understand what makes your particular clients tick, what they're scared of, what they want, what the dreams are. They have to know your backstory, and they have to know lots of little elements about your life, or else people will catch them out very, very quickly. And it's almost like you need literally a clone of yourself to be doing it. And that means you have to spend a lot of time training. We're quite lucky that we can train people very, very quickly, because I put out so much content that people can go through a list of content and learn a lot of the back history and a lot of the story through absorbing that content. Yeah. But if you're a coach that's starting that maybe doesn't have a YouTube channel that takes them all the way through your processes, maybe you don't have an extensive email onboarding, maybe you don't have all of this in place that person can kind of consume and learn from, you're going to have to go through it step by step. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is like rebuilding these training processes to make sure that those people are, right, listen, it's getting to the point now where they should have to be able to have a conversation with a distant family member and they don't know it's not you. Maybe not. I was going to say your mum at first, and then I thought my mum can even tell when I'm lying, let alone someone else is lying.
Yeah.
But it has to be somebody that kind of knows your whole history and knows what makes you tick and knows what makes your clients tick. That's not something that you can just hire from an agency and plug into your business and it will work tomorrow. Now, if you want poor quality leads and you're just happy to, get a reasonably low ticket and you want to work with somebody that just wants to lose weight, that's cool. You're going to have a really high turnover business. People can make it work. You just got to make loads of sales. It's fine. If you want a really high level, results driven, coaching based business and you don't want to be in your inbox all the time and you want someone else to take this job, it's going to have to be somebody that you've really, really bought into and built into the business.
Yeah. It almost kind of like if someone in your family or like a friend or someone or like, you knew someone who knew you or even like a client that you'd work with. It's
easier now to coach someone that's really close to you to do the job than it is to teach someone who knows how to do the job everything about you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like, I think whenever like the set and stuff all came around and stuff like that, it's fine. You can teach someone the message, but it's like teaching someone to become someone else is so much harder. But that's why I always say to coach, I'm like, when you get a setter, you still have to train them. Like you still have to do this because it's what's needed.
I think
unless someone who's really dull and has no personality whatsoever.
But then they're not going to have a good business anyway, realistically. But I just think like if you actually wrote down the time investment for a lot of coaches of this is what it takes to train a setter effectively, most of them would go, I'll just do the fucking lead gen myself.
Yeah, I'll just do it myself. May as well.
I'd rather do the lead gen than go through all of that. Yeah. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because again, I think the narrative has been built that like you have to get a setter. No, you don't. Like there's some good coaches that are still in their inbox doing 30, 40 grand a month.
Yeah.
Because it's a task that's hard to replace. Yeah. To get it right, to get someone to do a really good job of it. And the higher ticket you are and the more, the better clients you want, the better that person's going to have to be, or else you're going to be dealing with shit clients all the time.
Yeah. I almost like the other day as well, I was saying to one of my clients was their setter currently like feels like it has to like constantly repeat himself about the same like terms, stuff like that. I was like, what you probably should do is actually get her like some sort of document with all the stuff that comes up on a casual conversation. I was like, if that's the one thing she's struggling with, like terms of fat loss, terms of different things, like what different things mean, put a document together for her and train her on it because that's what she needs.
Yeah.
You constantly just messaging her and telling her that's what this means. It's wasting time.
The best things that you could possibly do to plug in this right now, if you are working with a setter, put your setter through your coaching program so they understand exactly how the program works. Talk your setter through the sales pitch so they know exactly what's going to be said at the next step because it's easy for them to bring it forward. Coach your setter on the content that you've got coming up over the next week or two so they're aware of what kind of conversations that they can be having off the back of that. And you also need to teach the setter all of your principles about your coaching and your values so they know what to say, when to say it, what they should say, what they shouldn't say, who to leave alone. If somebody says this, it's a red flag, don't bother. And I think building that into some sort of handbook would be the best thing that you could do. When you're doing it with yourself, try and be as much yourself as possible. If you are just flicking through step by step, oh, well, now I talk about your goals and now I talk about this and now I talk about that. Those things were written by people that don't like speaking to people, okay? You need to get good and be happy with speaking to potential clients that you want to work with. If you don't want to speak to them in your inbox, you realistically have no business coaching them. They should interest you. You should care. You should want to help them. You should want to find out about their issues. It's brilliant market research for you, but B, it's going to be the best and fastest and easiest way to build a relationship with that person. And then when it comes to the time where they want coaching, you're going to be the person they want coaching from because you have the best relationship with them.
Yeah. I would also say probably like if you are kind of like struggling right now with lead gen, is like go back through your messages, like look at like how you're actually speaking. If that was you on the other end, that message, would you reply? If you say no, then you need to change your messaging. What I probably say as well, a lot of people struggle with at the moment is that transition from being banter and friendly to actually going that next step. But I say to them all the time, like let the conversation flow and then start like maybe strategically thinking of how you can then ask certain things that might pull out certain answers. It doesn't have to be like, what's your goal? Oh, I see you go to the gym. What are you training for? It doesn't have to be stuff like that. It could be like, oh, like, you know, related to yourself, like pulling back to yourself, pulling back to maybe a client story that someone has had that relates to something that they've posted. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't have to always be so salesy and direct. It can be relaxed. And I think people struggle with that because they're like, oh, I'm not getting people like on a call like until like a week later. And I'm like, still getting a call.
And for me, I would focus heavy on opt-ins. So I would focus heavy on, okay, my job is to connect with people, to make them feel comfortable with me, to make them feel like they can reach out to help if they want to. My next job is to then routinely offer free help and advice by, I don't want to say lead magnet because then people start thinking it's this big thing, okay? But mini resources, little guides, little tips, little hacks. I've got this thing that'll help you do this. Comment below if you want it. Vote on the poll if you want it. Offer free advice and help. The people that feel comfortable with you, the people that want to that you've started those relationships with, if they are in the market for something like that, if they are looking to make a change, they will then engage with those things. And that's where you should focus the majority of your sales-based conversations around, because they are literally saying, I've got a problem that I think you can help with. So you don't have to force the conversation down there in the DMs. You can put strategic things in place that are going to allow you to be like, okay, cool. I'm going to do some lighthearted stuff across my content so I can start to build that rapport and engagement. Next step, right, I'm going to do some value-based content that maybe just they have to ask me about first, or they have to opt in, whether it's with a comment or a DM or an email address or whatever. Then you start the conversation about actual like, you know, fitness and goals and results. But I think a lot of coaches don't like doing that because it means that they have to make some extra stuff. But it's a massive key step, what we found in being able to translate that good relationship you have into a potential coaching conversation. Yeah. And that's something that people miss out as well. So that's something that's definitely more in. Now, here's a tip that you can take. And I see other mentors doing this as well. And I get targeted with the ads. Please stop it. They're awful. But make sure that it's something useful.
Yeah.
Too many people are like, join this thing that sounds really shit, or like, do you want this free thing that's fucking sounds so boring? Like,
if I have to see anyone another alcohol cheat sheet, I'm going to slice my eyes out.
Even if it is an alcohol cheat sheet, right? Make it more relevant, make it sound more fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's Manchester Carnival this weekend. Like, are you going to go get twisted on rum punch this weekend? Here's a guide on how to do it and not be throwing up the day after. Yeah. Or here's how to do it and not feel like you got ran over.
With the lads and still keep your abs. Make that rhyme. I made that rhyme.
I'll give you one word.
I made that rhyme actually as well.
That's easy. I didn't need a PDF for that. Drugs.
Yeah. Just don't eat for 4 days.
Yeah. That's it. What happens. No sleep. 40 million steps. You'll keep your abs, but you'll lose your arms. And potentially your life. But
at least you have good calves.
Will you?
Yeah.
Depends.
Yeah.
I don't know what kit you've been taking, but my knees don't bend. Just do that. Only joking, allegedly.
Let's not put that in there.
It's fine. But yeah, make sure that when you're doing these things, you are, again, thinking with your content brain, thinking, how do I get people to want to engage with this? How do I make this specific for a problem?
Yeah.
And if you do all of those things, your lead generation will be much, much better, and you will stop feeling like a fanny in your inbox.
Maybe we need to do a piece of content on that as well. Like, because I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what to do. Where do you start? You probably should actually do something
Where
like
do
that.
you start with what?
Like actually getting your content, like how to make that kind of plan and how to like make content that's going to sell people into your program. And like not saying that way, but like, there is that many coaches out there that like, I don't know what to post. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's working. I don't know what this, because they get so overwhelmed with that whole idea of it that they just don't end up doing anything. So I think for a lot of people that would actually probably be really helpful.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do that. Yeah. Tune in to find out more. No, I'm not joking. Hopefully that was really useful for you. If you've got any questions about like what's working in lead generation right now, or if you've got any counterpoints to what we said, feel free to drop us a message. Other than that, take the advice, implement it, and I hope it helps.